What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Chris Abacon. Got them both on the same show.
What's going on, everyone?
What's going on? So, welcome to Monday's topic. So, Monday, Tuesday are topics. Wednesday's discussion. Thursdays will either be a throwback or Ask a CISP. This one will be a throwback. I'm already certain of it. So, you guys will hear something from the archives. We have like roughly 470-ish episodes to go through. 480 maybe. Don't quote me. And then Friday's everything else: movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
I just want you to know, Ryan, once you put it on video, man, it's quoted. Like, that's how it is.
It's written in ink.
This will be held against you 25 years from now when you're in political office. Like, remember that time he messed up?
I don't know about politics.
This is how we connect to the future.
That's
right?
That's how it is.
Right.
That's how it is. Canceled. But because he can't remember the episodes. But let's get back to it, everybody. All right. So this article's from darkreading.com, right? Title of it is Cybersecurity Awareness Doesn't Cut It. It's Time to Focus on Behavior, written by Russell Spittler. He's a co-founder and CEO of Nudge Security, right? So what he's talking about here in this article, right? So I'm somewhat familiar with this because as it is where I work, I do the majority of the training, right? And what he's saying is that just doing the training itself doesn't focus on behavior, which he believes to be the biggest factor in preventing the things that happen when it comes to cybersecurity issues, right? So I understand what he's saying, but here's where I see it being a little different, right? So he's like, just telling people about it, doesn't do anything. And one of the things he suggests is, do the training when people start getting accounts or when they're starting in, on a network or something like that, which we do, in our facility, right? But we also do it annually, right? So it's not every time that someone is doing any type of training. We do it when they get their account. We do it annually every year, and we try to set a timeline, right? So like at this time throughout the year, this is what it's going to be, and it'll happen where you can't catch everybody all the time, right? People are TDY, they're doing whatever, it can't happen. But them trying to key in on the actual behavior of it, I see it being, all right, this is where I come off kind of as the old fuddy-duddy, right? Do what you're told to do, right? Like that's just kind of how I see it, right? Security is not fun. I get it. I understand it, right? Like as an ISO, I'm the fun police, right? Nobody wants to have to deal with me. Whenever any type of investigation comes up, they don't want to see Shannon walking around the corner, right? Like I get it. I understand it. But just do what you're told to do, right? Like you're paid accordingly to come in here, do a job, and these are security measures that it takes. But I mean, and here's the thing. When I do the training, I try to make it fun. You try to make it memorable. You try to do something different, right? I don't just want to read off slides. Anybody can read slides. If that was the case, I could just send them out to everybody and just be like, hey, everybody read this, acknowledge it, whatever, right? And it'd be those times where, you may do that, and then all of a sudden you get, stuff back from people in like 5 minutes. I'm like, yo, it takes me 45 minutes to do this training. You telling me you read it in 5 and signed all the paperwork? You know what I mean? Filled everything out. It's just kind of weird to me, right? So behavior is what they're trying to key in on the way to actually change this, right? But when they say actual behaviors, they're talking about kind of putting it in practice, right? Like do a couple of drills or do something that maybe people will be more reactive to. But I'm like, at a certain point, is the juice worth the squeeze on this? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean it as in it's a bad way to go about doing things, but it's one of those things where if you do it too often, even, is it like the boy who cried wolf, right? Like every time they see something now, do they think, oh, this is cybersecurity guys playing games again, right? And then they don't take it serious. You know what I mean? So just do what you're supposed to do, and you shouldn't have these types of problems. But behavior is what he says what needs to change, not just speaking at people doing training. And to me, I just think you should make the training better. You know what I'm saying? Make it more memorable. Say some fun things,
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's I think in industry they call it gamification, just making something fun, making something available, making something that people want to participate in, right? And then really that in turn leads into what I think is the biggest factor. Is part of it is like the culture aspect, right? So behavior is dictated by the culture of a company. So leaders should really strive for a culture of cybersecurity and being aware of what we're supposed to do. And also, just want to also talk about the fact that you could have all of the technical controls in place. You could be 100% compliant with NIST 800, 171, 172 even, right? But there's still that human factor, right? There is that human factor, there's human error, and there are outstanding social engineers out there that will do anything and everything to get into some type of database somewhere to do harm, right? So when we're looking at specifically vulnerabilities like this, it's got to be holistic, right? So the bigger your company is, the bigger the attack surface is, right? So there's all these little things that can really drive vulnerability and the potential threat event, right? And then again, I just want to go back to that culture, right? And then you hit it on the money right there when you're having fun with it, when you're engaged, like walking around the office, or doing weekly meetings with departments that you don't necessarily see or talk every day, right? Just kind of like a spot check, right? It's different also when we've got a lot of people remotely. It's difficult to really enforce those behaviors, because you got people just walking into their office at home and they're logging in, right? And sometimes they're not cognizant that, hey, they're checking their personal email or on their corporate email. They'll just click anything, right? Really, until it happens to them, they're not going to care anymore, right? They're not going to care. But so, for example, right, there are phishing simulations out there that do a really good job. They're internal within the company, right? But they do a really good job with like fake phishing mails and things like that. If you got to look out for, email addresses, URLs, things like that. And admittedly, right, in the early days, I actually clicked on one of those links, right? And then I got a call. Hey, what is this? Aren't you supposed to be in IT? Right? Aren't you the guy like preaching cybersecurity? Or you're the one telling us, take out your cat cards, and stuff like that. But yeah, until it happened to me, right? I didn't see that like consequence, I didn't really. I mean, it was a behavior thing, right? It's a culture thing. So,
But let me ask you this, Chris. So like,
yeah.
but to my point, right? So like, if you were to see it like every month, right? Like I was talking about with the whole boy who cried wolf thing. Like eventually you're gonna have people like, again, because security isn't fun. We know this, right? Like when I'm
Mhm.
going around and I'm pulling cacks out of the readers because people are walking away from their desk, right? Like like stuff like
I've
that.
done
Like
that a million times.
you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like it's not one of those things where I don't think, and let me not say it's not. I can't speak for people directly, but I don't think it's one of those things where people will take it seriously after a certain amount of time, right? They're like, all right, here we go again, right? So every time
Mhm.
they see it, they're like, it's an exercise. I'll get the call, whatever, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. And then within 5 minutes, if they don't get that call, they're like, that's kind of odd. It's like, yeah, because you've a Nigerian prince has got you now. You know what I mean? That's what ends up happening. You know what I mean? So that's my fear, is that we already know it's not fun, and like behavior, I get it. I understand where the author is coming from, but it's still not something that I think is going to, like, people just need to, they kind of need to just nut up and do what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I mean, on the even more technical side, right? I just remember the UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics. There's stuff like that where it's going down to the weeds, where they're looking at clicks. They're looking at the metrics of how you operate on your corporate computer, right? So that they're using machine learning models now. They're using all these algorithms. It's fancy stuff that I'm not really familiar with, but at some point in time, there's me big brother out there that's going to be able to do create some kind of threat mechanism, or threat rating for employees, right? It's crazy.
That's
So
real
hey, how
1984.
yeah,
Like
1984,
I,
yeah.
I didn't know that existed. Now I'm just a little creeped out. Like, are they doing that to me
Yeah,
on
for
my
sure.
corporate
Uh,
laptop?
yeah.
I think you're both right. But I think it's at different age groups. Like, so that'd be my argument. Like, we adults are not a lost cause, but we're very stubborn. Like, we don't believe in the cyber. We're like, this is
Hmm.
nonsense. Until, like you said, Chris, it happened to you, right? And then you take pause. You're like, maybe I should be more apprehensive. Maybe I should be more into it. But to Shannon's point, like, yeah, people who just don't care, right? They get caught by the
Mm.
phishing campaign, just like, meh. You know what I mean? I have to redo my IA training again. It's going to take me another 5 minutes. And I'm not worried about
Mhm.
that. I know all the answers. I've been doing this for, 10 plus years. I honestly, I believe it is a behavior thing, but I think it has to come at an earlier age. So I went to CyberX this week, and there was a guy named uh, I'm gonna mess his name up. Let me look it up real quick. Mark Keller. So Mark Keller's the CTO, and he said the same thing. He believed it to be a behavioral thing. It's getting people into the mindset so that way they take care of the cyber. But I would take it a step further. I would say it starts with the youth with the cyber hygiene. Like I think you're gonna need the Shannons to beat people down, take hacks out in our current state, right? Creep around the corner and jet people up. But I think if we bake it into good practices, like how we teach our kids to be good citizens, right? Like at my third grader back when he was in kindergarten through now, right? He's always talking about like pick up litter, like do this, do that. Like he's a big into recycling. Like they're kind of feeding this into him already, and then hopefully he keeps some of these habits when he gets older. I think the same thing should come with cybersecurity, where you're starting to see a lot of that being baked into school now, to keep kids safe just with pictures and images and things of that nature. I think it should ramp up a little bit as they age up, to having better passwords. Hopefully passwords will go away in the near future. But if they don't, right, how to build a stronger password, how to protect yourself on TikTok, like build that in now, and then when they become us, I think it'll be a little bit easier to keep the reins on. So it sounds a little bit manipulative, right? A little bit of cult-ish, but I think it is a best practice, right? So I think if you give it to them sooner, then they'll be more responsive with it later in their lives. So, and I remember Aisha Hollins was on the show and she talked about it a little bit as well, maybe even a year ago, where she has she goes to camps and she does classes with uh, young girls and kids, teach them better cyber hygiene. So it's already out there. I think it just needs to be kind of instilled more into our schools, and then you'll build them into the hopefully safe adults when they get older. So
But to Chris's point, you got to make a game of it, right? Like especially when
Yeah.
you're
right,
young.
right,
Okay.
right. But you remember some stuff when you were a kid, right? Like the whole stop, drop, and roll. Like I don't even think that's even applicable anymore. But it's baked into my mind. Like if I ever caught fire, I would stop, drop, and roll, and hopefully it will go out. I'm like they lied to me. So, but
Oh
no,
my
I think
God,
this is a really good conversation. So, it's good to have everybody's
for
perspective
sure.
represented on it. And if you, the audience, enjoy this, please tune in for the rest of the week. Chris will be with us all week long. Again, Monday, Tuesday, our topics, Wednesday, discussion. Throwback Thursday, I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, but it'd be something good from the archive. And then Friday, everything else. So listen to us talk about movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Hit us up by the websites that go by our name. You can meet me up personally. I'm Ry Scared Guy. That's RYRY Scared Guy on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Threads, and Twitter. And where can they find you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Abacon.
There it is, A Bacon. That's how you spell Abacon.
A
And then
Bacon.
Shannon is in the shadows. We don't know where he's at. He's doing the Darkwing Duck. But yeah, definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. Stay safe, stay secure.